I was just sitting there thinking about how beautiful this stuff is. When it first gets, picked and hung up like that. Yeah. And that's on those fishing lines. It's a fishing line tied onto one of these little toothpicks. You tie that fishing line onto the little knobby things on this filter, feathery end, and then this pointed end. I get my scissors and I sharpen it into a real dull but sharp point. I tie a fishing line on there and I've got the little loops on the ends. Twisted some little hooks in the ceiling so I can stretch those fishing lines out and get a surprising number of leaves on a pretty short piece of fishing line. But right now, I mean, this is like the one, two, three, like fourth time I've had my ceiling like packed with leaves, and I mean, this will be light, finishing these ones up and getting them hung and those hung, and there's a bunch. Oh my God, a lot, pounds and pounds of little ones there. But anyway, I thought I had all these different stages of the whole tobacco process going on right now, after pulling them out of the garden or, cutting. I mean, I finally, cut them back for the winter. I'll mulch over them. But so like right now, there's these ones that I just brought in and they're like really, they're like, sticky, leathery, big. And I'll string that little threaded, piece of fishing line through the back of the leaf and then the front of the next one in the back. So they're crisscross, back to back and front to front. So they kind of push each other apart a little bit when they're hanging there. And then once they start getting, kind of drying out some, but they're still kind of wet in the middle a little bit down the middle veins and things. That's when I don't want them to dry out completely. I want to be drying out a little bit real slow. So they end up getting moved over. I mean, I had them laying in this, this big old Tupperware box. And then the moisture in some of them kind of spreads around by osmosis in there with a lid on it, to kind of even up the moisture level in those leaves. And so they were getting kind of wet down and feeling in there. So I pulled a bunch of them out, and I mean, this is kind of out there hanging all over the pot and all over things in my little closet there. And so, after they start getting a little drier, these are other ones these ones right here that I set out because they were a little extra moist from out of this kind of next stage of, after they're getting kind of dried out, and I start spreading them out, because they tend to curl up, they want to pull shut, I guess, to hold the water or something, so I end up getting them. But the moisture level down in there, you can still feel a little cool, but there's no like real soaking wet moisture. And if I'm feeling through here and I feel something too moist and too wet, I'll pull it out and hang it up, even if just sitting around here. I know it's really tedious to get it just right, but that's what you do to keep that long, slow, actually like a fermenting process that goes on in there that breaks down the sugars. It actually breaks down some of the nicotines because it can be pretty raw, man. Coming out if you don't break down some of that nicotine through that long curing process. But the sugar's in there too. When the sugars get broken down, it's less carcinogenic from what I understand, because someone did a test on that, and the sugar levels in the different tobaccos corresponded with the cancer rates. Oh, I dropped a few leaves there. I'll have to pick those up. But anyway, after they get kind of really brown in this box, they'll get to that point where let's see where they're getting. They're getting brown, and they start kind of aging in there. Well, then I can chop them up in a little paper cutter. It's like, there's that thing. I don't know where I put it right there. What I do is I'll take a bunch of those leaves and roll them up long ways. Just stick them in that little paper cutter and chop them off in these little kind of inch long coils, you know, because I got several leaves. I'm working through that little cutter all rolled up, and I get these rolls of these little 1-inch wide things that, and I got packed in there. And then with that little bit of moisture level that they had in them, they'll just continue to cure and ferment in there like that if I want to leave them like that. And or I can go ahead and throw them in the, you know, the old bullet blender here, and run them through there. Once they've been chopped into those little 1-inch type strip things, you know, I can get it all chopped up, and then we end up with, let's see if I can get that. That's tight. I keep it tight. This jar of that, you know, organic. This is fish emulsion and seaweed. Big, gorgeous, beautiful plants. And this jar is like, I mean, I think I weighed it, you know, before I started, and it's packed. I mean, it is packed. You know, don't need a lot of air in there for it to keep aging and, you know, fermenting in there. But it'll be, you know, no chemicals, and particularly, and more importantly, it's really an interesting conversation in itself. I have to get back to later, but on the sugar levels in the different tobaccos, and what that means as far as its carcinogenic properties. That's, everybody should have a lot of wax. That's and you can, you know, get a little creative with it, but wax is a fuel, you know, and you can burn it indoors and keep you warm at night and keep a little light going. You get them big fatties at the thrift store for, you know, $1, $2 here and there, and grab them when you see them half price. A lot of wax. And anyway, I digress. We can talk about candles another day. Sweet dreams.